Welcome everybody. This is our conversation driving retention across the North Carolina state system with our incredible leaders and partners from A&T, Greensboro, and Charlotte. We are so thrilled to be having this conversation today and welcome all of you who are joining us as well. I am Vanessa Ford. I am a Senior Partnerships Director here at Mentor Collective. I come to the work from the education field, from being a teacher for 20 years. Joined Mentor Collective about 4 years ago in hopes of supporting students in many ways in their journey to be successful. I believe that all students, regardless of who they are, how they identify, where they're from, deserve the equal opportunity and access to a meaningful education. And I'm thrilled to be joined by leaders today who I know believe the same. Our agenda, we're going to be really looking about insights into the student experience. We're going to dig in a little bit to 3 case studies of 3 partners who we have in the Carolina system: North Carolina A&T, UNC Charlotte, and UNC Greensboro. And then we'll have time for some question and answer at the end as well. There we go. These are our amazing speakers. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, starting with Dr. Dawn Nail, Executive Director of the Center for Academic Excellence at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Dr. Nail, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you and my esteemed colleagues at North Carolina A&T, and also for UNCG and UNCC. It's such a pleasure to always be amongst the Mentor Collective family. I've been at North Carolina A&T for longer than I'd like to say, many years, starting out in admissions and briefly coming over to the Center for Academic Excellence as a retention advisor, and now I am currently the executive director. So my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Nail. Dr. Lisa Walker, Associate Provost, Undergraduate Education and Dean of University College at UNC Charlotte. Welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa. That's a lot of words. It basically means we work on student success here. So from athletic advising through tutoring and student success through the Career Center, all of those are part of the family of undergraduate education work that we do here. I've been here, I'll put it out there, Dawn, 25 years at UNC Charlotte as a faculty member in the Department of Sociology.
Wonderful. 25 years is an exciting milestone. I hope you got a mug or something exciting.
a little lucite plaque.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. And Dr. Samantha Rayner, Assistant Vice Provost, Strategic Student Success Initiatives at UNC Greensboro. Good afternoon, Dr. Rayner.
Good afternoon, everybody. Apologies for the voice and the nasal. I have young kids and they bring home gunk. I'm so glad to be here with you all today. I am at UNC Greensboro. Similar to Lisa, a lot of words, but it means we work on student success. I haven't been in the UNC system quite as long as my colleagues. I've been at UNCG 5 years and at the UNC system in some capacity for 13 years in August.
Wonderful. We're going to hear a lot more in our deep dives into each of these partnerships and collaborations as we move forward. Thank you so much, Dr. Rayner, Dr. Walker, and Dr. Nail. But I wanted to take a little bit of a slowdown and look at some of the realities in higher education. And I think given those who are on the call today, this will resonate. Feel free to use your emojis if it does, or comment in the chat. We are seeing shrinking student engagement. Folks are asking, is higher education worth the cost? Trying to determine if it is somewhere they want to be. We are seeing an increase in growing student need. We know that COVID-19 did hit everybody, but it hit certain populations within our communities much harder than others. And those students are our students now. And we need to make sure that we are addressing, that we know what's happening with those students and we're addressing those student needs. We also know that unfortunately students who are low income or first generation learners are not completing degrees at the same rate as their peers. So there are gaps in our retention and graduation rates of students who come from these populations. And ultimately, I'm sure this does not relate to anybody on this call. 50% of higher ed professionals are feeling clinically meaningful levels of burnout, which means you don't have a lot of time or bandwidth for newer initiatives or newer ways to involve students without support. So one of the things that we really work to at Mentor Collective is to look at these realities of higher education and say, how can actionable student insights from meaningful relationships in mentorships make a difference in the lives of students? I also want to point out, we're going to come back to this. This just came out from the Titan Partners last week. Take a minute and look here. It's pretty profound. We are seeing that in purple, these are the services according to the institutions that exist on campus. In blue, or the stubby lines, this is where students actually believe are available on campus. And we're seeing large gaps in awareness of support services. So we're going to also be talking about how mentorship in particular, and the actionable student insights can lead students to water, lead them to actually utilize these resources. So we're going to take a quick little poll. This is for you. What are your top barriers to driving student success? Is it siloed data collection, capacity constraints, underutilization of student support, lack of belonging and engagement, budget constraints, all of these, none of them? Take a moment and select your answer. Right now, we're seeing a little bit of everybody. We've almost gotten everybody's responses all over the board. Let's see here. They're still coming in. We are seeing capacity constraints as a big one. Lack of student belonging and engagement as another. All of these are barriers to student success, and our students come to us with such amazing, diverse life experiences and passions for the work that they want to do, that we want to try to address these specific issues as a way to mitigate any barriers to student success. So looks like a lot of different framing coming into today's conversation. Thank you. If I can get it to click, perfect. We're also going to frame our time in the student success priorities of each of these institutions. These are system-wide priorities. You can read them here, and you see that some of them are in common, however, at different levels in terms of strategy. And so when we dig in, we're going to see how A&T, Greensboro, and Charlotte are addressing student success priorities, utilizing mentorship as a pathway to insights. And finally, we address these big issues in higher education in a number of ways. Shrinking student engagement. We want to engage students authentically with identity-aligned mentors. We want to capture and uncover actionable student insights about that growing student need with a peer mentor to be able to ensure administrators can serve those students. We want to be able to supercharge whatever student success strategy you have on campus to be able to retain and graduate students. And we want to take your limited administrative capacity and optimize it. We know you have a lot on your plate. How can we take what you are doing, optimize your resources so that they are focused on student intervention and not necessarily on logistics? And we work across the journey to student success. Mentor Collective can work with academic advising, chatbots, tutors, mental health, all of your data and LMS systems. We align to the work that you are doing to supercharge it, to make sure that you have what you need, the data and the insights to best serve students. Ultimately, and I'm going to head into our panels very soon, Mentor Collective is a source of insights and creates a culture of engagement. And that's really what we want to talk about today. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Nail. Why did you prioritize mentorship specifically in your student success strategy at A&T?
Sure. Thank you again, Vanessa. So I think I'll answer this question by kind of telling the audience today kind of what the Center for Academic Excellence does. So we are a full service academic support unit. So that means that we provide all of the services that are going to help our students be successful. So we start out, we have academic advising. We coordinate the freshman studies course that gives them all of the tools that are necessary, again, for their success, networking, communication, time management skills. So all of those good things. We do tutoring. We also have a component of the SAAEP program, which is for our athletes, and supplemental instruction. So again, a myriad of different components that we have within the Center for Academic Excellence. And then we have the Sisters program, which is a program for our young ladies. It is a living learning community, and we do all of the things that young ladies like to do. We do tea parties, we have programming for them, we do community service with them as well. And then we have our Aggie Men. Our Aggie Men program is specifically for our freshmen males coming in the door. We know across the country, and it has happened for several years now, unfortunately, that we have a retention problem when it comes to our African American males. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a program that was speaking specifically to our African American men. And so we implemented Aggie Men. We've had several iterations of this program over several years, but this is one of the programs that we've seen a lot of success with, definitely with your help as well with Mentor Collective. And making sure that our young men are doing what's necessary to stay in school. So we provide all of these services, again, to help ensure our students, more specifically, our first year students to be successful. We know that the first year is very difficult for students coming in the door, and that transition, that's an indicator of how they're going to matriculate. And how successful that they're going to ultimately be. So we think by providing all of these services, including mentoring and kind of front loading, if you will, that first year experience, that will definitely give them all the tools that are necessary to be successful as they are students here at North Carolina A&T.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nail. Lisa, Dr. Walker, why did you prioritize mentorship? I know we've worked together, just like with Dr. Nail, for gosh, almost 4 years now.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about mentorship as a piece of the puzzle that we had not really fully been able to implement, in part due to the kinds of things you're talking about, and just our capacity. Mentors, doing a good job of a mentorship program can be very time consuming. In terms of, making sure you're matching the mentors and mentees correctly, and all of the things that, you need to train the mentors on, and the follow-ups. And so we hadn't really ever kind of moved into that space in the way we had hoped we could. And then during COVID, that spring, we actually decided this was something we were going to need, because our students were going to be even more disconnected. And so we rushed in. I think we've been, like I said, we've been thinking about it a long time, and then we just decided this is the time to jump in. So we really see mentorship as a key piece of the overall puzzle of student success, particularly the peer mentorship piece, because we see more and more students not really responding to the kinds of outreach we do that comes from our staff, our academic advisors, even the faculty. But they are much more responsive when they are, sort of connected to their peers for the same kinds of information. And so we realized with COVID, that was the right time to kind of fill in that gap in our programming here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Rayner, Samantha, with your cold, unfortunately. I'm going to make you talk now.
It's all
Why do you
right. I'm ready.
prioritize mentorship?
So our program is focused on transfer students, and I won't give away the plot. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But we recognized that we had a gap in transfer student support. We were also going through a general education curriculum review, and our first year experience course was being added as part of our general education requirements, which is fantastic. But for transfer students who were coming in with 24 or more hours, that transitions course was no longer required. So it was one touch point that we had with our transfers at the entry that we were losing. So we knew we needed some way to connect with them, for them to connect with the institution. And similar to what Lisa was sharing, and I think Dawn was also sharing, ways for students to find their path, right? They needed a navigator to kind of help them understand how to move through the institution, how to access support, etc. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's the punchline, Vanessa.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, moving slides. And just as a note, we have been, just as a snapshot to our UNC system campuses, we are growing. This data was from the end of last year. We've trained almost 2,400 mentors. We've had almost 7,000 mentorships formed. We've seen over almost 31,000 conversations logged by mentors in the UNC system. And the flags that we're going to talk about in a bit, these insights from these relationships about challenges that students are facing, almost 1,400 of them have been triaged by institutions, allowing those 1,400 instances to be addressed in ways that they may not have otherwise been addressed. And so we're going to dig in now with Dr. Nail from North Carolina A&T. This is your opportunity to let A&T shine, as it always does, and tell us a little bit about your institution and then our work together.
Well, thank you again so much. I have to smile a lot for this slide because I am an alum of this institution. So being able to do this work and then come in to work here every day is definitely a highlight for me. So just a bit about the institution. We again are the #1 largest public HBCU in the United States, and we've held that distinction for many years now. And again, we are the #1 HBCU in the country, the #1 largest. We have about 14,000 students. We're looking to get about 14,000 for the fall. Keep your fingers crossed for us. And then again, the #1 HBCU, we've held that distinction from several different publications and organizations. We are #2 in the country for combining research and teaching. We have several different research projects that are going on. One of my favorites that we did several years ago was on the hyperallergenic peanut. So a lot of good things that are going on here at North Carolina A&T with regard to research. Number 39 in social mobility, number 46 in the most innovative school in the US, and of course, the #1 producer of African-American engineers in agriculture. Our chancellor is a graduate of this institution as an engineer, so we definitely love that one. And again, we are the #1 HBCU nursing school in the country. So again, our mechanisms for mobility. So the mission is to develop agile, culturally competent and diverse leaders who use analytical skills to meet the challenges of the future. So again, we do this by evidence-based instruction. We're also doing this by professional engagement with our students, community engagement, which we'll talk about a little bit more, and high quality, impactful research, which I referenced previously.
So question for you, as you've built a culture of engagement across A&T, what has that been like? How has mentorship created or helped create that culture of engagement?
So I really like this question. So I had 3 different ways that I was looking at it when I was doing some research to kind of answer it. So the first way that I can say that this has been impactful is student to student, right? So again, coming in the door, a lot of our students, they don't know anything about the college experience, right? So by pairing them with students or pairing them with peer mentors, they have someone that's been through what they're getting ready to go through, right? They have someone that is in an organization that they may want to be in, that may be taking courses that they are going to take, maybe in the same major. So they have someone to kind of go down this roadmap, if you will, or have an ally in their educational experience. So that's really a wonderful thing. We also are working specifically with students to alumni, and they're kind of seeing what they can be as a graduate of North Carolina A&T. And again, seeing how they're supposed to give back now that they are graduates of North Carolina A&T. And then students to corporations. Again, this kind of piggybacks off of what our alumni do. We have alumni that are at some of the best institutions, best organizations, corporations across the country, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, IBM, Google. So again, this gives an insight to these students of exactly what I can be when I grow up, so to speak. But it also starts a pipeline into some of these wonderful students so that they can get some of the careers that they desire upon graduation.
Thank you. And these are a little bit of an overview of some of the initiatives that we have on campus. Are there any you'd want to speak to, or?
Again, my favorite one, of course, are the Aggie Men and the Sisters programs, because those are definitely the ones that are in my area and the ones that I've had most contact with. I am looking to do quite a bit more with our Aggie Men this year. I mentioned earlier that we've had several iterations of the program, and so we're probably going to have one more come the fall, because I just really want to beef up some of the strategies that we're utilizing for our African-American males coming in the door, just to ensure that we're giving them all of the tools necessary and all of the opportunities that are available here at North Carolina A&T and elsewhere so that they could be successful.
Excellent. And just speaking to this as well, for those who are looking at this slide, these are 4 different initiatives and collaborations that we work at A&T with, serving students through mentorship, providing those insights back to the institution. A little bit about our growth. When we first started in 2020, we were working with the Aggie Men program, but we have truly expanded to 8 inclusive programs centralized for all incoming students, diversity at DEAS, all incoming students and upper division students, at the graduate school, all incoming PhD students, and through the MIA Center grant, all incoming agricultural students. So we're really able to look at scalability of these initiatives and collaborations. And we've actually grown 12 times the size in the last 3 years. And that means 12 times the number of students who are in these relationships and 12 times the data that we're gathering from these relationships that help us serve students even better. Interestingly, we also have seen this growing student engagement. We've seen increase in not only the number of conversations logged each year by our mentors, we're also seeing increase in the text messages they're exchanging and in the flags. A note on flags: with peer mentorship, it is likely that mentees will disclose things to their mentor that they need help with. If the mentor feels like it is outside of their capacity, potentially a transferring school, a financial issue, housing insecurity, mental health, they're going to flag that for the university so the university can intervene. And so we've seen a lot of flags submitted during these school years, and every flag is a student challenge that is then addressed at the university level. Peers being perfectly situated to this because there's not that power differential. We've done a match between mentees and mentors that is relevant, that allows them to share and feel comfortable. We also have seen here some of the specific flags that we see. And I know, Dr. Nail, you have a team who triages these flags. So we just wanted to highlight what some of them are, right? Some of them have been feeling overwhelmed, feeling like they made the wrong decision, needing to have support with depression and anxiety, needs help in chemistry. And what our point person, our amazing point people at A&T have done is they actually triage these and get students to the resources so that they can get the support specific to their needs. Any other comments on flags and engagement, Dr. Nail? I know that wasn't a prepped question. I just threw it at you.
No, you're fine. I think that you've covered this very well, and this gives a great overview of some of the flags that we see with our students. So, and actually captures quite a bit of what we see with our students. So, no, I think you did well.
Excellent. And so finally, as we move forward, we have all incoming students in many different facets of the institution engaged in these meaningful relationships. How are you going to define success moving forward?
So we define student success as the accomplishment of favorable or desired student outcomes. And of course, as with any other institution, we have several different components or metrics that we utilize to gauge that. So one is we want to make sure that we're reducing our undeclared population. In the Center for Academic Excellence, we work specifically with our undeclared students. We have academic liaisons in each one of our 7 colleges. However, we work specifically in the center with our undeclared students. We don't think that it's a problem for students to come in. You know, they're 17, 18 years old. Not knowing exactly what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So, but we do understand that there is a certain level of success that is achieved with those students. We've seen it just by studies. We've seen that they do better when they come in and they are targeted. So we really want to reduce that undeclared population. We want to make sure as well that our students are finishing their general education courses by the end of their sophomore year. We want to improve our DFW rates. No one wants to have high DFW rates with our with our high failure rate courses. We want to make sure that our students also understand how their academic standing impacts them. If they're on suspension, if they're on probation, how that impacts them overall in completing their curriculum. Making sure that our students have internships and are placed in jobs and a good return on investment when they come to North Carolina A&T. And we just also want to make sure that our students are holistically developed. So not only are they coming in and getting what they need academically, are they mentally where they need to be? Are they spiritually where they need to be? Have they just gotten a holistic experience? So that's how we specifically define student success here at North Carolina A&T. And we are going to look at, I think, at least in the Center for Academic Excellence, some other ways to define that, because we understand that faculty may look at student success another way. Administrators are going to look at it with retention and graduation rates. Students are looking at it another way. So I think that we may down the line look at defining student success in another way by having an all-encompassing view of what student success means to the university.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nell, and for your work at A&T. It's always a pleasure to work with you. We are going to hear from one of your mentees now, because you can hear from all of the adults in the room, but it's really nice to hear from a student. So let's hear about her experience.
Hello, my name is Daria Wilson. I decided to join the mentorship program because I wanted to connect with somebody who already went to North Carolina A&T and experience of what the campus like and the teachers there. Paired up with her name is Camille. Best things ever. We started chatting prior to me coming to the school. She found my Instagram in the mid-summertime, and we just shared our similarities, experiences with one another. And then by the time I got to the school, we had finally met in person. She gave me a tour. She told me about some of her experiences with accounting, which is also my major and her major too. And it was one of the best things I've decided I've done. She has also helped me with my career and academic path. For academic, she's helped me with my accounting courses, which are not easy at all. She's been my tutor basically every day when she's available. And then for career path, the stuff she was telling me is the stuff that I also want to achieve. She told me that she had summer internships every year, great connections with the people in the accounting departments, and just the stuff she was telling me is the stuff that how I want to be by the time I graduate from college.
I'm trying not to let it play again. There we go. I think we should be all set. What I love about that is she said, like, we hit it off right away, right? So we know that the match was a good one. They connected over the summer, and inevitably, based on the conversation that this student just said, we know that if there was an issue, she would probably flag it for Camille, and Camille would be able to flag it for others. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Nail. We are now going to jump in and talk a little bit more with UNC Greensboro, Dr. Samantha Rayner, and I'm just going to prime your brains back with the bar graph from Titan Partners, a little bit about resource utilization and the differences that we're seeing between what institutions say they offer and what students say exists. Spoiler alert, we found some really interesting data around mentored students and resource utilization. But first, Dr. Rayner, go ahead and take us away and tell us about Greensboro, please.
Absolutely. Thanks, Vanessa. So for those of you who may not be familiar with UNC Greensboro, we are a regional comprehensive institution. We are a minority serving institution, and we're sneaking up on Hispanic serving institution status as well. We've been identified as the #1 in North Carolina for social mobility. Nearly 50% of our students last fall were first generation students, or reported that they were first generation students. We also have a really high percentage of Pell recipients. We're a high research activity institution, and we also are a community engaged institution designated by Carnegie. Next slide. Perfect. All right. So I mentioned that our program was focused on transfer students, so I want to give you a little bit of information about our transfer population at UNC Greensboro. These stats are based on last fall, but they're pretty consistent over time. So normally about 40% of our undergraduate population are transfer students. They look a lot like our first time in college students. Hold that thought in your head for just a moment. Large percentage of first generation and Pell recipients. I said large, but then you're looking at that percentage and you're like, Samantha, that only says 18%. Again, this is a self-report metric. So about 60% of our transfer students did not report at all. So I think that's higher than what we're seeing. Our students are largely studying full-time. 38% of our transfer students are students of color. And again, we're looking a lot like our first time in college population here. About 60% of our transfer students start at a North Carolina community college. That's great. We've got some system level structures in North Carolina built in for those students, including a comprehensive articulation agreement that waives general education requirements if students are transferring having completed an Associate of Arts or an Associate of Science degree. But that leaves about 40% of transfer students who are coming from somewhere else and may not have that same level of protection. Those could be coming from other four-year institutions or other UNC institutions. And then we've got an average age of 23%. So although I keep saying these students look a lot like our first time in college students, one takeaway I want you to have here is that transfer is not a homogeneous population, right? They're varied, they're diverse, just like our first time in college students, and they're coming with a lot of different kinds of experiences and backgrounds that are really valuable to them at this institution, but do make it a little challenging when we're trying to support them and their success. Next slide. All right. Again, this information is a little dated. We do the CESI, the Culturally Engaged Campus Environment Survey, every 3 years, I think, or every other year. We just administered it again, but this data is from the prior administration, okay? So we haven't parsed all of the data from last fall's administration. We brand this survey I Belong, and there were some really interesting findings when we started to disaggregate by transfer students. You see these stats along the bottom. The punchline here is students are not feeling a strong connection to our institution. and not feeling a part of our community. So for transfer students who are already coming with imposter syndrome, feeling like they're different or they don't belong at an institution because they didn't start there. These are startling stats, and they were really concerning, and we wanted to figure out a way to better connect these students to the institution and help them see that they did belong here. Next slide. Perfect. So these, Vanessa, I don't know if you wanted to speak to this or not, but these are the two programs that we currently have at UNCG. Spartan First is launching in the fall. That's part of our QEP effort, and I don't have a whole lot of information about that. The program that I'm most familiar with is Transfer to Transfer.
Exactly. And just for Spartans First, it's all incoming FTIC students paired with an upper division mentor with a big focus on holistic student care in the QEP. And Transfer to Transfer, we've been a number of years, and we have an opt-in of about a third, if not closer to half at sometimes, of the transfer student population. Trying to get the slide. So what have you learned, back to that graph, about the relationship between mentorship and resource utilization? And I know I have some graphs on the next slide, so let me know if you want me to jump to those.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and jump to those.
Perfect.
So we've been looking at our program both in terms of the students who participated and those who were invited and chose not to participate, because I wanted to understand a couple of things. One, what was happening with sense of belonging, since that's one of the outcomes we were interested in. One, what was happening with resource awareness and utilization, and then retention. So we're talking here about resource utilization. When we surveyed our students, so both the students who were participants and those who were not, and asked them to tell us in the last 30 days, which of these services have you utilized at the university? And there was a long list of various resources and services. One of the things that jumped out at me was that our mentored students had reported using an academic support or a service linked to academics at higher rates than our students who were not participating. So go back to what I said a moment ago about transfer students coming with some imposter syndrome. Sometimes transfer students don't know or realize that resources exist or that they are available for them too. The fact that these students had not only been aware and found resources, but were using them, told me that one, mentorship was helping with navigation. So our students were able to find the resources and connect to them. But two, mentors were doing an excellent job of normalizing help seeking and the use of those resources. So instead of a student who was already maybe questioning whether or not they belonged, questioning whether or not they could handle college level work simply because they were moving from a 2-year to a 4-year institution, having a peer say, no, tutoring is what we do. Supplemental instruction is what we do. This is how you get through these courses. It doesn't mean you can't do the work. It's extra practice time.
Yep.
Really was helping these students take advantage of those resources.
And just as a note, if you're interested, we did publish this in a peer-reviewed journal article with the New Mexico Mentoring Institute, and we collaborated with UNCG and the IR team to complete this study. I did want to note also what were accessed less frequently.
Yeah, so here's a couple financial aid. Tech is where folks go for support with information technology, computers, that sort of thing, and counseling center. So this is good news because students were able to find the information that they needed either on their own, maybe through their mentor, or maybe through another connection on campus.
Excellent. And I know that we're focusing on each institution in one focused area, but I'll also note that in the peer-reviewed article, we did see meaningful increases, statistically significant in sense of belonging and in retention as well. So lots of holistic pieces here. All right. And if I get it, Are there additional ways moving forward that you're going to define success for this cohort?
Yeah, so for this program specifically, I mentioned it too, so sorry, I spoiled the question a little bit. A sense of belonging is one that we are looking at. I showed you the stats, so that's something we're really concerned about. Retention, of course. And then the third thing that really should have been an answer to your original question, Vanessa, is scalability.
Yes, true.
Because we don't have a lot of capacity and we do have a lot of transfer students, we need interventions that are scalable and that will reach large percentages of our transfer student population. So those are, in addition to resource utilization, those are 3 other areas that I'll be looking to define success.
Thank you so much. And we have a couple quotes from mentors, right? I can help in any way. I want them to relate to me if they need a support system. I want to pay it forward, help someone else out that's transferring. Most of our mentors are transfer students themselves because, again, we have identity-aligned mentorships based on what mentees say they need and want out of these relationships. And so when we send this out later, you can take a look at some of these great quotes that we get from our mentors as well. All right, moving into UNC Charlotte with Dr. Lisa Walker. Talk to us, Lisa, about Charlotte.
Sure, happy to, always. So UNC Charlotte is located in the city of Charlotte. We are an urban campus, although we used to be fairly suburban, but now we're right in the middle of everything and have a train that comes right to campus, goes straight downtown. We have a wide variety of undergraduate academic programs and as well as graduate programs, both at the master's and PhD level. We have increased our enrollment very dramatically over the last 10 years, actually over probably about the last, well, I can speak to 25 years. We've more than doubled the entire student population in that time. And we have been the #1 destination for transfer students in the UNC system. So we have a very diverse undergraduate population, about 39% Pell Grant, 70% receiving some sort of need-based financial aid. We have a rapidly growing Hispanic population, and we are currently awarding more undergraduate degrees to Hispanic students than any other school in the state. And we are continuing to work on our scholarship and financial support to students, which is a constant challenge. And we have about between 35 and 40% first generation students as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah. So again, I sort of already previewed this one. We are very diverse in terms of many variables. We get lots of transfer students. We also have 40+% of our students from underrepresented racial and ethnic backgrounds. And that number is continuing to increase, and we expect we will be majority minority in the next few years. You can go ahead. Thanks. So our history with Mentor Collective, as I mentioned before, we started this in 2020 during the pandemic. And because I work in University College, we started here with a program just for incoming undeclared students. And we matched them with mentors who had started here in University College, but were now in majors elsewhere at the university. And we tried to match as much as we could based on the interest of the undeclared students in terms of where they thought they might want to go as a major. We had a great success that first year, and the College of Business, which is always eager to jump on success, asked if they could kind of glom onto our program, and we said absolutely. And again, matched incoming students in that college with upper division peers. Last year, we added a program for PhD students. This was not just for incoming students, but it was for any students who started during the pandemic, as we were seeing that those students were less well integrated to the campus. than previous doctoral students have been.
Yep, wonderful.
So just in terms of the numbers, you can see them here. I won't go through them. We're,
Yep.
you know, in the interest of time. So, but we have matched, last year, we matched almost 700
Yeah.
mentees in University College across the 3-year period. In 2 years in BELK College of Business, we matched over 300. And then in 1 year, the PhD Collective, we matched nearly 100. And they have been very active in terms of logging conversations and so forth. Again, what the mentors are saying, I really think one of the things that sometimes gets forgotten in peer mentorship is how valuable it is to the mentors, as well as to the mentees, right? We spend a lot of time talking about what the mentees are learning, what they're getting out of it, you know, the resource utilization, the sense of belonging, so forth. But it's really actually a very positive experience for the mentors as well. And we do not pay the mentors. They get no financial support from us in any way. We do send them a nice certificate and they give them a little badge they can put on their LinkedIn. But by and large, what they find is that it's really just intrinsically very positive experience.
And I will note that all 3 of these collaborations utilize volunteer mentors as well.
Great.
So
yeah.
Let's talk about retention and persistence, the big words in higher education and the impact you've seen. Tell me when you want me to go to the next slides.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and jump in.
Okay, great.
So obviously, like many places, we are concerned about enrollment in general. And in particular, we feel that the retention of current students is both better for students. That is, we want them to stick it out and not spend a year or 2 or 3 and then not end up with a degree. So retention is really a valuable thing for the students. And obviously it's good for the institution in terms of enrollment numbers. What we have found pretty clearly, and you can see here, this is the BELK data from 21 and 22, but in every category of student you can pick in the BELK College of Business, they are retained at a higher rate if they have participated in the mentorship program. So overall, it's a significant effect of more than 5% higher retention rate for those students. So you go ahead to the next one.
Yeah.
In University College, we had a slight overall effect, but it was varied. But what was particularly interested in were the minority students. And so for both African-American and Hispanic students, we saw increased retention among those who were in the mentorship program. And then again, there's the overall number. As like I said, it's a slight increase for when we look at students overall, but then when we pull out the male students, who Dr. Nail earlier said, you know, this is a particular problem in higher ed at A&T. It's also a problem here. We do see for male identified students, the effect of mentorship is even greater.
Thank you. So what lies ahead? We talked about having a number of disparate, not disparate, that has a negative connotation, varying collaborations on campus. Where are we standing right now in terms of a culture of mentorship?
Well, I'm very thrilled because we were able to take the incoming undergraduate student program that we had been doing in University College and College of Business and spread it campus-wide this year. So we have 8 academic colleges participating in this this year. We're already seeing very good response of mentees and mentors signing up for the program. And so we will be running this university-wide for the next several years.
That's really exciting.
It is very exciting.
And, oh, right, university-wide. There you go. We've added it.
Oh, we had a slide and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just want to make a note before we move on to the next piece, is that each of your institutions is very different in terms of who they serve, what's happening on campus, and maybe the focus of why you would bring mentorship to the campus. And yet we're seeing all of this exciting impact from things like increased engagement at A&T, to sense of belonging and resource utilization at Greensboro, and increase in retention at Charlotte. It's just exciting for me as an educator and someone who cares really deeply about this work to see the impact of mentorship and actionable student insights in action at such different institutions. So I had to make that comment. So by harnessing the power of peer-powered platform, you've been able to delve into insights about your students. Is there anything that any of you want to speak to that's been surprising about what you've discovered from these relationships and what folks are reporting back to the institution?
Well, I mentioned it a little bit just a few minutes ago, but I really, the value of the program for the mentors was sort of surprising to me. Yeah. The comments we get, we get, before we recruit mentors, we get last year's mentors asking us, can I do it again? Can I still be a mentor? It's been great. I'm happy to take on a new mentee. And so the enthusiasm and the positive experiences of the mentors sort of surprised me. I was honestly kind of concerned that we would be able to recruit enough mentors, and we have had no challenges there.
Wonderful. Dr. Rayner or Dr. Nell, anything you want to add that's been surprising to you about our work over the last few years?
Yeah, I would just echo what Lisa shared. And this has come up in a couple of different interventions and programs that I've run, that we're so focused on the output for the student receiving the service. When it comes to peer-to-peer support, we sometimes forget about the impact on the peer delivering the service. And we've had the same kinds of findings that was just described, mentors sharing the impact that their mentee has had on them, which has been fantastic. And then seeing the lasting impact in the mentee saying, yeah, now it's my second year and I want to be a mentor. I want to help someone else navigate that path. That's been surprising and encouraging to see.
Great.
I would definitely agree with Lisa and Samantha with that. One of the other things that I've seen is just how open the students are with issues and concerns that they actually have. So sometimes when we see them in the classroom or in passing, or even during an academic advising session, they may not say exactly what may be going on that may be hindering their process. But what we have noticed is through their interactions with Mentor Collective and with a mentor, is that they have chosen to be more open, and that way we're able to gather some data and actually tailor services to actually support them and help them along. So that's been one thing that we really found helpful in working with Mentor Collective.
Our key word here is those actionable student insights, right? So they feel comfortable, they feel connected to their mentor, and therefore are sharing things that then can inform your work. Wonderful. And
sorry, can I jump in? There's a question in the Q&A about what I was just speaking to, so I'd like to address it now. That's okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So Dr. Lyon Bennett is asking about how we recruit those mentors. And the truth of the matter is we didn't have to work very hard to recruit. So it starts with an email. I find it's most effective if it comes from me with the name, Dean in the title, but we'll see. And then what's great from my point of view is Mentor Collective gives us a template with a link in it to the sign up. I send the email. Sometimes students have questions, but mostly they either a lot of them just sign up. And then the training is all done by Mentor Collective. We collaborate a little bit on some of the content of what's going to be in that training, but I don't have to create that. I don't have to track it. I don't have to, hound students to do it. So it's been really quite a smooth process to get the mentors recruited and on board and ready to go. So I just,
Thank you.
in response to that question.
And hello, Dr. Lyon Bennett. Thank you for your question. All right, Dawn, Lisa, and Samantha, what do you want your peers to take away from this conversation? Kind of closing words before I wrap us up and send people off to their days. Let's start with you, Samantha Rayner.
Okay. So I'm thinking back to the poll at the beginning of the presentation, and one of the highest responses was to faculty staff capacity constraints. We are no stranger to that here at UNCG either. And I cannot stress to you enough how the partnership with Mentor Collective has made our mentor program possible. This would not be a thing if we didn't have, Lisa just talked about the templates, the platform, the support in connecting mentors and mentees to one another, the ability to go to a dashboard and to see quickly how many connections have been made, how many conversations. This is the capacity builder that makes our program run. Yes, I have a staff person who's a part of their time is dedicated to managing this program and interacting with our mentors and our mentees, reading those flags and elevating them, absolutely. But without the platform, it wouldn't happen.
Dr. Nail or Lisa?
Yeah, I totally agree with Dr. Rayner. Like I mentioned before, we've had several iterations of the programs that we had specifically with our Aggie Men program, and we just could not find one specific way to make this program stick and work. And since working with Mentor Collective, again, we're able to get, those specific metrics, get those specific, that data, and have the dashboard, which we absolutely love, to be able to see exactly what's going on. And again, tailor specific programs or initiatives to be able to help the students. So we are definitely appreciative of the collaboration that we have with Mentor Collective, and look forward to being able to continue doing that and continue to help our students in the way that they need to be assisted. Absolutely.
Thank you. Lisa Walker, Dr. Walker, final thoughts? What do you want your peers to take away?
Honestly, I think I would just echo what Sam and Dawn have said. I think we would never be able to run programs like this without the support of Mentor Collective. And in what's been nice, and I work with different vendors on different things all the time. It's often not a particularly collaborative process, but with Mentor Collective, it is fully collaborative. We have great access to ask for things to do. The dashboards and the platform is really helpful, but also then, when I say, I really need us to dig into the retention data in the College of Business, then there's a whole research part of Mentor Collective that can jump in as well. And as I said, we've been able to collaborate on some of the training pieces and what's in the sort of mentors toolbox. It's been really just a true partnership rather than we've purchased a service and now we just have to kind of do it that way.
And I love hearing that because I get to work with all of you behind the scenes. To all who are watching, I've worked with Dawn, Lisa, and Samantha over the last few years. And it's just such a pleasure. Having come from a classroom where I had those deep relationships with everybody, I wouldn't want to be just sitting off to the side. I want to be collaborating. And so it's my joy as well to work with all of you. All right, so just as a reminder to everyone, Mentor Collective is a source of insights. I know Dr. Nail talked about that creates a culture of engagement. There are a wide variety of institutions with different goals and strategies, and yet we've collaborated with so many of them, like our great institutions here today. Thank you so much to those who took the poll. And to learn more, you can go to mentorcollective.org or reach out to any of these people. Thank you, Dr. Nail, Dr. Walker, Dr. Rayner. I am Vanessa. My information is below. It's just Vanessa at mentorcollective.org.